Good evening, wherever you are. We are here to learn about Confluence databases for project managers. And yes, Emily, I am a real content creator now. My wish came true. Um, we'll give folks a little bit of time to join us here. Got about almost 200 signups, which is amazing. So I'll give folks a couple minutes to drop on in. But if you're here already, welcome. All right. And while we're getting ready, if you have questions on databases, write them down, or if you have them, drop them in the chat right now. I'll also set up a little Q&A right at the top. And there should be a little Q&A pop up at the top of the chat right now to make it a little bit easier for you all to enter your questions on it. And there we go. So, like most of these, we will start out with a couple of slides just to orient us. I've got 4 different scenarios we're going to dig into, or 4 different ways we may find ourselves using Confluence databases. Now, these are not the only ways we as project managers can use Confluence databases to support our work. They are just some of the ways we can use Confluence databases to support our work. Also, if you can give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me. I'm always paranoid that I'm just talking to myself in my cute little office here. So I always appreciate some confirmation that you can actually hear my voice. And with that, we are going to get started. LS Learning was sad. You thought you missed the session. You did not miss the session, my friend. I'm glad you were able to make it. Yeah, let's get some live chat up here. There we go. Thank you, Debbie, for letting me know. Yvonne, welcome. In Barcelona, I don't know if you'll be able to make Team, which is the big Atlassian event in October, Yvonne, but I will be there and would love to meet folks. So just a quick shout out if you're going to the Atlassian conference or if you're just in Barcelona in early October, please let me know. I'd love to get a coffee or come say hi, especially if you're one of my members, my coffee sponsors. One of the perks is I'll buy you a coffee when we connect. Ghost is already cheering me up. I love that. Thank you, Stephen. Wow, Ghost is really getting the crowd going. I appreciate that, my friend. All right, we are going to jump in again to just a couple of slides to orient us, and then we're going to get hands-on quite a bit. Yvonne, yes, I'll be happy to grab a beer with you, my friend. Quick way of introduction. My name is Rob. Andrea, you were here Thursday. I love that. I'm also doing a stream tomorrow, so you can do 3 days. My name is Rob. I've been in information technology my whole career, and I've been in project management in information technology almost as long. I started off in help desk, but quickly got pulled into project teams. And my first project was a very large implementation of an ERP, an enterprise resource planning platform. And that had a lot of moving parts. A lot of things had to be tracked. And a lot of the tracking was done in a spreadsheet. And that's not bad. It worked. We were able to make it go. However, spreadsheets, as flexible as they are almost too flexible. You can bend them in knots too easily. And maybe I'll drop a question here in just a minute just to see who uses spreadsheets. But I was looking for other tools, and I've used a lot of different ways to manage projects. I've used physical whiteboards. I've used pen and paper. I've used tools like Jira or Confluence or other products. And that's why I was happy to see databases added into Confluence. They just give us, as project managers, another tool that we can use to manage everything. Now, I do personally like a physical whiteboard to draw this stuff down on, so you'll see me starting a lot of my plans on a whiteboard or a bit of paper, but then we need some way to share it. We need some way to give it to other people. So I'll dig in a lot more about that. Emily's comment here, choosing the right tool is important. One of my favorite questions someone asks is, what's the best tool for blank? And I joke, it's the one that best suits your needs. So please keep that in mind as we talk about Confluence databases. I'm not telling you Confluence databases are the only thing you should be using. I'm not telling you Confluence databases are the best thing ever about this. I'm simply saying, hey, here's a way to use this. Now, there are different ways to interact. The easiest way is in that chat. Please use the chat to ask questions. Please use that chat to respond to each other. So if you see someone else asking a question, or if you have an idea you want to share, I'd love for you to drop it in chat so other people can benefit. These trainings are a lot about me sharing what I know, but it's really great when other people also share. Now, I am also now a full-time content creator. I have some, side work that I do, but I'm mainly focused on doing this. And the easiest way you can support me and help make sure I can keep doing that is just hit the like button. I think my record in a live stream is like 38 likes. If we could get 40 likes, we've got 60 people. That would be amazing. But please just like it if you like it. Other people will help you, or that will help other people find this and give other people the chance to learn as well. If you haven't subscribed, also please subscribe. I do multiple videos a week, including a lot of live streams. And you can also share this video very easily. So if you work with other people who use Confluence, or if you think they might like it, please send it their way. There are two other things I'll do. I've already put a question in our chat, and it should be a bar up at the top, Q&A, what questions do you have about databases. You can put a question in there, and that'll save it, and that'll make it easier for me to find. The other thing I can do is drop in a question. Kind of like this, a Q&A, and I'll do this just to interact with you all some more. So be on the lookout for these Q&As popping up, and you can quickly just click a yes or a no to respond if you're comfortable. And already a question, Alistair. We'll take a look at, can it manage a project budget once we get hands-on? But that is a very good question. So an agenda, we'll briefly talk about what databases are, just to make sure folks are aware of, that they exist, as well as some use cases. But again, I'm not going to cover everything they can do. I do have other trainings on them, and there are other ways to use databases. So think of this as inspiration or as a starting point in your journey. Then we're going to get hands-on. I'll do 5 or 6 minutes of talking, and then we'll jump into Confluence Cloud Premium to use a database. Now, all of my examples will be in Confluence Cloud Premium, but everything I show you should work in every version of Cloud. The things to look out for that would be different would be if I use the Atlassian Intelligence, that thing. But otherwise, everything I show you, building the database, connecting it to Jira, doing other crazy stuff, all of that's just available in Confluence Cloud. So if you're on data center, databases don't exist there, unfortunately. And it looks like most of us aren't getting to Team Europe. That is completely okay. There are a lot of virtual things you'll be able to do and participate in, and I'll be actually publishing a lot of content from Team 25 Europe. Are there adverts going? YouTube. Alistair, we'll take a look at budgets. Also, I'll double check, but even if adverts do play, they shouldn't really take over the screen. That's just a bad experience. I'm sorry about that. We'll take a look at project budgets when we get into hands-on, Alistair. But another quick poll. Have you used Confluence databases? Confluence databases. And this could be for any purpose. I started using them as a very simple, hey, I can put a spreadsheet inside... I can put a more complex spreadsheet inside a Confluence instance. But if you use it for anything, that would be a yes. So at a high level, they're just a way to structure data. Now, I have an entire basics thing I've done on databases, so I won't dig too much into that. But keep in mind, from a project manager point of view, it's kind of somewhere between a table, like a spreadsheet, and a Jira project. So when I think of a tool I need to track something with, if it's more complex than a spreadsheet, but I don't want to go set up a Jira project, I'm going to land right on a database. And I do that because I have different fields I can add. I have different information I can include in the database that lets me track things a little bit more easily than otherwise. So I'll go through a lot of these. Steven's saying they use Structure and sometimes Jira Timelines, the standard version for managing projects. There is a document management use case for Confluence databases that maybe I'll have time to talk about, but I've used a Confluence database to restructure a Confluence space. That's probably a different use, Stephen, than what you're referring to with document management. But it can be kind of shoehorned in as a lightweight tool for some things. Again, a database won't replace Jira. It won't replace a dedicated tool for managing documents, but it does give us a middle ground in some cases because we have flexibility in the columns we add. We have flexibility in the values in there and ways to connect them to different things. Also, for me, a big advantage is it's in Confluence. So having all of my project data in one spot is a big advantage because that just means I send my team to the Confluence space or I send them to the part of the hierarchy that has my information, and it's all right there. They don't have to go to some other system. I don't have to remember to share a Google Sheet with them or a Jira project. It just exists. We also get those different field types, and we'll explore what a lot of these are, including linking databases. And we can also save views. This, for me, is a very good use case for a database. When we think of a project, we have different stakeholders. Your senior executives don't want to get too in the weeds usually. Your software engineers don't care about, excuse me, maybe your backend developers don't care about the front end stuff. So we can give people different slices of this information, which is hard to do on a spreadsheet, if not impossible. Morning, Kaither. How are you? Stephen has used it to track reviews and status requirements on docs. I haven't used it too much for the document management, again, other than the reorganizing, Stephen. That's an interesting use case. I do want to share that we do also have a Discord community where we share a lot of these ideas between these sessions. So if folks are looking for more interactivity, more interaction, feel free to join us there. We're going to spend a lot of time on this screen when we get live, but just by quick way of orientation, once you open a database, you can add more fields with this little plus button. And databases kind of come with some columns pre-added. I'm on the fence about this. It drives me nuts because usually I have to delete them, but you'll end up with a blank database. You can always add more with the plus. Your views exist in the top left, and view 1 is always the first view you'll get, which is just everything. In the middle will be your records. So think of those as the rows of your database. The fields are the columns of your database. And then you can add new records down in the bottom with this plus add entry. Also, folks, you'll notice these little crowns showing up in the chat. It doesn't show up when I pop it up there. You get those through interacting. So you get those through chatting, or if you want to support the channel by getting a super, I think they call them, you'll get more points that way and get you a little crown in chat. Otherwise, they don't do much. They just look kind of fun. But this is the basic screen, and this is where I spend a lot of my time managing, manipulating, updating my databases. So some general tips and tricks before we get into our first hands-on. Plan out your database. Take time to write down what you want to be in the database. You can jump in and just start building, but like many things, a few minutes of planning and thinking through, hey, what do we want to show up, will be very helpful to you because it'll guide you as you design things. You can also duplicate structure. So if you have a project planner that you want to use multiple times, you don't have to rebuild it every time. There is this duplicate option that I'll show you how to use, where you can take just the structure of the database and reuse it for multiple projects. Or if you're using document management in multiple places and you have a database for that, you can recreate just the structure to let you do a fresh one somewhere else for a different set of documents. That for me was huge when they added it because I was having to rebuild a database every time. We can't make our own database templates yet, so it's not like a page. However, we can just duplicate the whole thing. And take time to tailor your views. Our last use case will be how to do this, but consider your audience with all of this. By giving them just the view that they need of just the content they need, you'll make your stakeholder and team's lives a heck of a lot easier. All right, out of 40 folks, most of us aren't yet using Confluence databases. Totally okay, but I do have another question. And this is one you can respond to in the chat, or I'll do a quick Q&A. But the question is, how do you currently store project information? So I'm going to just pop another QA up in here, but if you want to share in the chat, that would also be great. And it could be anything. I am really bad at honestly managing things. And I'm just curious here to learn because it's not just about you all getting to learn from me. I also get to learn a lot of stuff. Emily H. has an interesting point. I've tried to use Confluence databases. I just can't find a way to get it to work. This is how I started using databases. My challenge was, and my challenge for any system is, I learned how to use them by using them. That sounds silly, but that's why I'm doing these trainings, so I can share what I have found to be useful. And keep in mind, it might not be the best tool for the thing you want to do, and that is completely okay. My goal here is just to make sure you all understand, hey, this tool exists, and it's something that you could find useful. Emily H. also has another point. Confluence databases are relatively new. I want to say about a year old. And so folks are using them and constantly finding things that they can or can't do. So just keep that in mind as well. But our scenario is we started a new project. We want to build a lightweight tracker. Okay, great. How do we do that? Well, we're going to use what they call basic fields. And I've listed them all here. You don't have to memorize these. But this would be like text or a person's name or a tag or a file. So I've used this quite a bit to build a project tracker. I don't want to go into Jira to do it. I don't want to do it in a spreadsheet. So I have a database I just duplicate, and I can put in things like tasks and who's responsible for them and some other things. Now, tags are not the most important field for me in this case, but they let you do things like have a status or categorize things, and they also give you a bit of visual pop on the screen. So you'll see them, you can pick different colors, so they make it a little bit more interesting. You can do this in a spreadsheet as well by coloring things, but it's not just straight up text. It's a set list of values that we can let people select from. And that is our cue to teleport into Confluence. Again, we are in Confluence Cloud Premium. Everything I show you should work in every flavor of Confluence Cloud, not in Data Center, unfortunately. And that's also my reminder. If you like this, please hit that little like button. We've got about 80 people in here. I would love to get to 40 likes. That would just be amazing. If you're looking for other ways to support the channel, you could become a member, a coffee sponsor, and then I owe you a coffee when I see you. Pretty neat. Or we have one-time support with supers, a little icon up at the top, I think. Anyway, I'm just going to open up a space, and to make a new database, I just go up to create and click database. If you don't see this and you're in cloud, it's possible it's been turned off just for your space. So something that frustrated the heck out of me, if that doesn't exist, talk to your space admin to turn it on. And here's our database. The first thing you should always do is give it a name. Unlike pages, databases have a default name of just untitled database. And that to me is completely worthless. So I'll just call this project tracker example. And then on the right, you'll see these options. We'll talk about the Jira connection in just a bit. And it comes with a couple of templates. Feel free to explore these later. I'm just going to go with an empty one right now. It's not very robust, I'll be honest. It's not like page templates where there's hundreds of things. So now I just have a blank database with a couple of fields, a text field, a tag field, a user field. I'm just going to start renaming these. So my text field, I probably want to name like task name. You can add default or descriptions, Please always add descriptions to your fields just to help folks out. You won't see me doing it here just so I can keep moving forward. But I always put a description because that'll show up when someone hovers on it. And so as I hover over, you'll see that helper text. This is very useful for folks who don't come in here much. Think your stakeholders. And then I'll just keep going and I'll think through what are the other fields I need. And let me just ask the chat real quick. I might have a status field for my tag, and I need some statuses. A blocked, to do, in progress, and done. Different field types will also have different options. I don't want to allow multiple statuses, but I do want a default value. Let me see if I can. Nope, I got to move my head. I'm just going to put my head over here for now. So I can tell it every time there's a new one, make it to do. For my user field, maybe I'll just call this assignee. And I don't want multiple users. So very quickly, I have something that can help me keep track of tasks. Again, if this is a larger piece of work, I would go into Jira. And if this is a much smaller piece of work, I might just keep track of it on a Confluence page as a task, or even do something like just write it down on a piece of paper on my desk. But from here, I can just start adding in tasks. Buy more coffee. Clean the coffee pot. I'm making up examples. These are to do. I'm going to assign these to Rob. And we can set this up to also notify these people that we tag. So very quickly, I have a very lightweight way to keep track of a project that's more robust than just a spreadsheet. I'll catch up in the Emily Hates MS project. I haven't used that since I got my master's degree, and it was a project management tool we used. Oh, I like this back and forth. I can see them being used for keeping lists of SMEs. Kythro, we're actually going to, this is one of the next things we'll be using it for, is tracking stakeholders. So thank you for reading my mind, my friend. So from here, I can just I'll delete one of these, but when I make a new one, it'll default into the to-do. From here, I would just then add either additional fields, so hit the plus and pick the type of field, or start adding in more entries as we go. Now, someone asked, can we use this to track a budget? I'm going to add in a number column, and I'll make this a currency, and I'll say it's US dollars just to pick one. I'll allow 2 decimal places. And I might call this like estimated cost. I don't think, Alistair, I believe that you asked the question that this is going to be exactly what you mean by can this help with budgeting. But we do have some abilities, some calculations we can do. Now, not very many, as you can see. It's mostly around the overall database. How many entries are there? Well, there's 6. I honestly haven't played too much with this. With these calculations, but it's not going to replace like a budgeting tool, if that makes sense. So it's something more like I can track it in here, but I can't do things like a subtotal, or I can't do something in here like, hey, total up all of the to-do items by the amount of budget they have. I could have a column for forecasted cost and actual cost, but it wouldn't then update, based on estimates. It wouldn't update by percent complete. Wouldn't do any of those things. Yes, my friend EVM. I'm honestly glad someone uses that, Alistair. I have some project management credentials. I had to learn it for that, and I've never personally had to apply it. But this is not like an EVMS tool. This is more using a database to support project management as opposed to a dedicated project management system, if that makes sense. Although I'll keep asking around, and if and when that changes, I'll let the folks in Discord know. There's a link right here, and also make some noise about it online if I see that update. So this is the quickest way to make that project tracker. And again, I would build out more columns as I needed them. But I do want to point out this duplicate option, because this has saved me a lot of time. I can copy the entire database. That's like a copy and paste, and that includes the records. Or I can just copy the structure. And if I just copy the structure, that will give me a brand new blank database with the same columns. And so this is where I have put in time. I've put in time to build out kind of a generic project tracker that includes views and everything. And then I just duplicate it every time I need a new one. This is more like a glorified spreadsheet. Sorry. I guess, Kari, that could be a way to think about it. I'm laughing to myself because a system like Jira is a glorified spreadsheet in a sense, but you're correct. That's one way to think of this. It's a step up from a blank table on a page that has some more features that they're expanding. So that's the basic tracker. Again, I would set this up if I have a mid-sized project, something that takes under 2 or 3 months of work and doesn't have a lot of interdependencies. Because for me, it's better to use that than a spreadsheet. And having it in Confluence, it shows up directly in my sidebar, in my nav, and can be put in context with other information is a very powerful use case. It's worth it for me in that sense. Teleporting back into Confluence. It looks like most of us store our project management information in Jira. About 60% of 40 folks, which is pretty good. Next question is, how do you handle stakeholder analysis? And this is just kind of an interesting general question. And from the context of like, what do you do with it? How do you store it? And I ask this because this is depending on the group, this can be a sensitive thing to do. Like you're sitting down thinking of your stakeholders. You go, oh, Emily H. I know that she really does not like it when we talk about T. I don't know. I'm making up a bad example. Or, oh, hey, so-and-so doesn't like working with this other person. We have to manage that. Or how do we handle our team members' skill sets? That came up earlier. I think Kythra mentioned. How do we track the skills we have on the team? So just a general question, because one of the ways we can use a database is for this analysis. I usually do this, honestly, on like a Confluence page in a table. But when I do sit down and think through my stakeholders and do this process, I found a database can be a good way to store it for a couple of reasons. I'll use the lens of analyzing the project team, just because the example already came up around how do we track like team member skills. And that'll be interesting because we can link databases. So when we think of a database, and this is another advantage it has over a spreadsheet, if I have one database of my team members and another database of my project tasks, those are just a spreadsheet, I can't do much between them. But with a database, I can link them. So I can select, the assignee is Rob. That can then pull in Rob's skill sets. And if I assign Rob to 10 different tasks, I can go back to the team member database and see how many tasks he's been assigned to. So there's some interesting things we can do with this. I've seen groups build a CRM, a customer relationship management tool, using this. I personally haven't used it too much, but this is another use case we have in terms of, hey, I've got information in one database that I need to somehow connect to the other one. Colin, I will get to your question when we get hands-on. I see it. I want to come back to it. If I forget, please call me out in the chat. Just do like a finger pointing up or a, hey, Rob, you forgot about it. Please remind me. Now, linking databases, this requires more planning, so I'll write these down first and think, what do I want to connect? But in this example, we're going to build one called team members. So the values in the team members database can be pulled into the other database. So here I see Rob, and then this phone number is just being pulled in from the other database. So this linking makes it easier to manage data across things, but also gives you this ability to store one set of data in one place and then quickly tie it somewhere else. Yes, I see Emily H. Thank you. I'm getting there. I'm trying to make sure all the other people can learn too. Oh, Ghost is pulling out the pitchforks. Wonderful. Is there a pitchfork emoji? Can someone check for me? Okay, Kari, I'll get to this. Do databases allow you to make changes to Jira tickets? Right now, I believe the integration is only one way, Jira into database, but our next use case, we're going to pull in a Jira ticket, and we'll see exactly what that looks like. So right now, I think it's just one way. Now, we can restrict databases. So if you have a database like a stakeholder analysis, Emily H., I was talking to Colin, not to Kari. But thank you for reminding me, my friend. We can restrict databases. So if we have something that, it's sensitive information, we've analyzed our stakeholders, we don't want them to see it, that kind of thing, we can lock them down just like we could lock a page. So just one thing to consider. One selfish ask, I do need y'all's help. I'm constantly looking for ways to make these sessions better. That's one reason I have split up all of the use cases. Instead of doing them all at once, I now spread them out through this. And that's why I'm using like the Q&A. So if you have a minute for feedback, this form I'm putting in the chat or this QR code is a great way. You can suggest other topics. You can tell me I'm talking too fast. You can say, hey, Rob, I love the snaxolotl that's up in the corner. It's an axolotl eating a taco. That kind of stuff. And now we teleport back into Confluence. Again, being the professional YouTuber I am. If you like this, please hit the like button. We've got about 21 likes, it looks like, which is amazing. We've still got 72 people in here. So if you like this, please like it and subscribe. That's the easiest way to support me. There are other options that I'll talk about as we go, including things like one-time sponsorship and channel membership. Back into our project tracker database. I'm going to use this database as the starting point. And I'm just going to go into, I'll make a brand new one because I don't want to get too confusing. I'm going to make a new database and just call it team members. Now I'm just going to change these fields. I don't need a tag field. I want a text field. This will be like skill set. Or actually, maybe I do want it to be a tag. I'll call this skills. And I'll have front end FE. I'll have back end. I'll have, what else? Integrations. I'm making up like software engineering examples. Testing, QA. And I'll leave this as a user field. So I'll bring this to the top. I'll get rid of my text field. I could have more fields in here. Again, I'm using a shorter example. But this could just be a list of team members. Oh, I already have a title. Team members version 2. There we go. I don't have that one. Maybe Rob's a team member. Maybe my friend Andrew's a team member. Maybe my friend Lauren is a team member. So I would just list all my team members. And then I could go in and say what skills these individuals have. And I'm quickly just like guessing if Lauren's really good at integrations. Stephen, I really appreciate that. Thank you. I will say it is hard doing these sessions because I put all this stuff out there. So I really appreciate when folks take just a second to, to like it, give me a thumbs up in the chat, say thank you. You want to be me when you're growing up? No. Don't be me. Be better than me. Be a better you. I only need one of me. All right. I could keep adding team member. Oop, I missed someone. Maybe my friend Rodney's in here. Nope. Maybe my friend Alex is in here. Yep. All right. So I have these team members in here, and you'll notice they're being notified. We can change that in the field settings. So we can turn this off if we don't want them to get a notification. But here I have my team members. Now from here, I just go back to whichever table I want to link this to. And I'm going to scroll to the bottom. And there is this list of like other databases. I'm just going to say entry link. And I'll call this team member. And then I need to pick the database I want to connect to. And this is where planning takes some time. I'll take 5 or 10 minutes to say, okay, I have 2 databases. I've got one that's my team members, one that's my tracking, and I want to link together using this field. That's team member. And you'll see in this dropdown, now I'm seeing a list of the people in that other database. So this is kind of useful. I can say Rob is assigned to this one, and maybe Andrew is assigned to that one. Where it gets even more useful, though, if I add another column and I select entry details, I'll pick which database link. I only have one right now, and I'll call this like skill set. And this should, come on. Oh, I always forget this. I need to select skills. So now that I've done this, we'll see that their skills are getting pulled in. Now I can also click on their name and I'll see their entire entry. So if I'm curious what else is here. So this is just all the fields in that other database. But I also have the skill sets listed. So this is one way I can share data between them. I think a light bulb just went off in Kari's head. What did you get, Kari? Could you share the revelation you just had with the other folks? I can't tell if it's likes what. Oh. Kythra, thank you for defending me. Honestly, the database links for me were the hardest thing for me to grasp because I'm so used to working in a spreadsheet or a table where everything is just in one spreadsheet or table. If you're familiar with like how databases are set up, you can think of this like a relational database system. And I'll use some technical terms here. In my team members, I have a primary key, a unique value team member. I can use that as a foreign key in this table to pull in information. So hopefully that's not too confusing to folks. That was a bit technical. But basically, I've got a unique list of names here. I can then pull those names into a different database. And based on that name, pull in other information. So kind of like a VLOOKUP, if you're familiar with spreadsheets. Debbie, this was my exact struggle. Hey, this feature exists. What the heck do I do with it? So I'm 100% with you there. It's also in some ways like a feature looking for a use. Things like this, a skills inventory, things like a CRM, anywhere you need to separate data that needs to be reconnected. And this is where I think a lot of people will struggle because up until now, there's been no way to do this in Confluence. Up until now, you have a spreadsheet, and that's all you get, a table. Or you have Jira, which does all of this on the behind the scenes. So I'm also looking for use cases. If other folks have them or want to kick around ideas, join me in Discord or in the future trainings. Emily, I'm in the same spot. Colin, this could help you out. The thing to keep in mind is this doesn't tie back to Jira automatically. Our next scenario will show us how to add Jira tickets to this list. But this is one way you could do that. There's another product called Talent that Atlassian recently released that might be easier for you to use. Yes, Stephen, this could be many to many. It could be one to one. Kari, this. You can have many different tables, I'll put that in quotes, as a database and link them in and then map data between them. If you do that, though, please take time to plan it out because that's where I struggle and that's where I fall down. I start building and I forget. I'm glad that helped you, Emily. Please don't scare your cats. Oh, Rajit, I love this. An example where you're doing recipes. I might have to steal that, my friend. If that's all right, I will use that example in the future. I'm just trying to catch up on the chat here. Ghost, this could be an interesting use case, this kind of thing. You could, I guess you could also use labels. If you could explore that, though, I'd be curious how you go. All right, so that is how to link the databases. And again, as I add or remove team members, this list will just update. And then as their skill sets change, that'll just update. Now, this will click as we talk more about filters, but you can filter databases. So you might say, hey, I need to see just my skill sets. What skill sets have been made available? Or you could filter just by team member. There is one more thing we can do, and that's called a backlink. So if I go to the data table, I'll call it, this is where my team members are. I'll add a new column, and all the way at the bottom, I have entry backlink. This will pull information into this database from wherever it's linked into. So I'll select my project tracker. And if I close this, what we're going to get is a list of the records in that other database that this one is being used in. So this is one way, again, a lightweight way I could track where are my team members being utilized. So it's saying they are on this thing called Buy Me a Coffee. Robert's working on that, and Andrew is working on these two things. So it's linking it the other way. You do have another option with this field where you can just list the number of entries. So I could have one backlink that lists the specific tasks these people are on, and a different one that just tells me the total number of tasks. So that's another way to link this way that I have found useful for just like counting the number of times Robert's been assigned to something. Whew. I like how that got so much discussion going. That was really cool to see. As a quick reminder, please like if you like. Helps other people find it, lets me know that you like it. In terms of how do we handle analysis, the majority of us don't, which is fair. Followed by in a system and then in my mind, which is typically, honestly, how I do it. I just think through and know, or pretend like I know these people. In team, we're sitting on 27 likes. So let's see if we can get some more in there. Alistair, it could be a utilization sheet if you think of it that way with the backlinks. How many times is someone being used? It would just count the number of tasks. Okay, another kind of leading question is how do you manage your risks? And a couple of fun answers here. I couldn't think of really good answers for this, so I threw in a couple of funny ones. But as we know, as project managers, risks show up in every project, and so keeping track of them is incredibly important. This is something I'm terrible at, and I say that because I forget to go check and update them. Databases, though, give us a way to do that. So we've started planning out our risks, and we need to connect them to work items. I've crossed out the old word for work items. You'll see me do that. Colin, I don't know. And if anyone knows how I could get an intern, I would love to hire an intern to help me out here at Heen Tech. All right. Shapes. Wow. Ignore that very wrong word in the top left here. What we can do is connect database records to either a Confluence page or a Jira work item. And this lets you link that work item into the database. Now, I think Kari was asking earlier, is it bidirectional? So if I update in the database, does it update the Jira work item? It does not, as of right now. But what it will do is pull in information from that Jira ticket into your line items. And so this is one way we can track risks and then tie them back to a Jira work item. Now, another way to do this is just to have a work item type called risk in Jira, but this can be kind of clunky. This could be too much in some cases. So this is just another option to help out. And Stephen is describing exactly what I'm talking about. You can create a risk called a work item and then track it in there and link it to other tickets. Now, you can pull in fields from that work item. It's not just the name of it. You could pull in the priority. You could pull in the assignee, other things to help track. Ghost, this is my big problem with it. And this is why I shy away from building out that structure that Steven's describing in Jira, is because typically the teams I work with move fast and break things too much, and they don't use these tools that I build. And then it's just me having to maintain them. And that's where having a lighter weight tool that's easier for me to manage, that does the job well enough, has been helpful. So we're going to jump in and start linking risks, and I'll just build this directly under my project tracker into a database. So I'll call this risks example. I need a risk name. Maybe I have a risk impact. And I'll quickly just throw in some things, low, medium, high. And then I'm going to change this last field to connect it back into Jira. So I'll scroll down, and I've got this Jira section. So I'll say Jira issue. I need to tie it to a particular instance. So I'll connect it to my JQuil instance. This is the appropriate way to pronounce JQL, by the way. And no one can challenge me on that because this is my stream. I pronounce JQL, Jira Query Language, as JQuil. Kind of as a joke, but I'm trying to make that a thing. So I would just list out my risks. We run out of coffee, which if you become a member of the channel as a coffee sponsor, you'll help me avoid that risk. I would really appreciate it. Maybe the hot water pot breaks. Maybe I have some other risks. And my impact if I don't have coffee is really high. Maybe it's medium for my hot water pot breaking. And then I can go into Jira and I can go find the work item that this relates to. Hopefully I have one I can quickly find. I'm just going to pick some random work items just to seed something in here. Here we go. And you can see I can pull them in from different projects. So this is another advantage. This is one database that can link to many projects. It's similar to linking a work item if you're familiar with that. And then I'll just add this Jira issues details. I don't know what you're talking about, Kari. It's not like I got stuck on Zoom and forgot to zoom out. Steven's question, I had to select a cloud instance here. So Jira instance, not a specific project. Now, because these are Atlassian products, it's going to respect your permissions. So if I link this to an instance and I don't have access to an underlying project, I won't be able to find the underlying work items. Sarah, could you let folks know what DSM-IV is? And other folks, feel free to make up an acronym for that if you don't know what DSM-IV is. So here, when I configure this, I'll just tell the database which field I want to pull in. And maybe I'll just pick type just as an example. Oh, wow. And it looks like this one doesn't have a type. So let me go find a different ticket. There we go. So here, similar to how I can connect this back to or link my databases, I tell it, go find this work item and then give me this field off of it. So this is another way I can combine data. Now I could get fancy and I could even, actually maybe I'll do that just for giggles. I can go back to my project tracker and I can add another field here where I call it, I call it risks. Whoops. I want to make this another entry link. And I'll link this to my risk example. And then as I plan, I can connect different risks to this particular task. So this can be another way to combine my data that I can't easily do in a spreadsheet. I could do it in Jira, as folks have pointed out. I can link multiple work items together to track this. But here I now have a single database that lists all of my tasks. I have a team member who's responsible for it. Maybe I don't need a signee because of that. Let's just get rid of this one. Oh no, that's not what I thought it was. I saw a calculate field and got very excited. I'll get rid of a signee. But now I can see I've got these tasks that are in a status with a team member, their skill set, and risks associated with it. So that's how you can track risks in here. Again, these are all kind of the same idea. I've got some number of things I want to track, and then I can link it together in different ways to make it easier to find. About 20% of us don't manage risks at all, and none of us have an intern who does it for us, which I guess is maybe good news. All right, one more poll. I lied. A new poll for folks. How do you handle differing needs for visibility? And the context here is you've got team members, you've got senior stakeholders, you've got customers, you've got all these different people, and they all need to see a different slice of your project. I'm getting there. So the different people who work on my project will have a different requirement for what they see and how. Again, my senior executives probably don't want the same view that my backend database guy wants. And my backend database guy doesn't want the same view as my customer representative, my product owner, because I want to offer different things. Endless amounts of Jira filters. If you write into your contract, Ghost, that you get paid by the number of Jira filters you have, you get paid more. Pro tip. All right, so our scenario, everyone loves their databases, but they all want to see it differently. They don't like that default view that only shows you one view. So we have this feature they call views. And this is exactly what it sounds like. It's a way to give folks a different view of the database. So in this on-screen example, view 1 is the default, and that little house icon means it's the home view. When someone opens the database, that's what they see. But I also made one called in progress that has a pre-applied filter. So as project managers, we should go through and for every major group of people we're working with, have a different view. And this customizes what they see, and it saves on that single database. So if you duplicate the database, like the structure, you'll end up with the same set of views, so your team knows what's going on. You do also have view settings, and we'll go through some of these. You can hide fields. So if you don't want your senior stakeholders to see the risks, you can hide those for them. They could unfilter it, but maybe you want to focus them in on the in-progress stuff or the blocked items. You can change the layout. We haven't really spoken about this, but you could have, we've looked at a table mainly, but you could also do a Kanban-style board instead. And you could have your team look at it that way and move things through a Kanban board with that layout and just click and drag. And then you can also filter. So again, think like a spreadsheet. You filter by columns and you give that to someone. You can do that as well. Oops, I forgot my placeholder. So here we are back in our database. And again, just a reminder, if you like this, please hit that like button. Easiest way to support me. We got about 29 likes and about 70 folks. I absolutely love that. If we could get 10 more, that would be amazing. Other ways to support me include a super one-time sponsorship for this stream or become a coffee sponsor. You get some extra stuff through there. You have a Kanban to-do list and your wife makes fun of you. Why? That's totally normal. So from here we have our project, and I'm going to get rid of my sidebar. And up under view 1, this is the default again. I have some options. I'm going to change this, and I'm just going to call this view like everything. And you'll see I get this update. It's been changed for everyone, and now the name is different. So typically I will make views based on project role. So to make a new one, I just click the plus. And then I have to define the view. So I would sit through, I go, okay, maybe I call this team members. I want it as a board. I've got some options. I'm going to use the status for grouping. Maybe I'll make the team member the cover image. I want it medium, sure. And now you can see the database looks different. So then I can go back from my layout and I can start filtering things out. Maybe my team, I don't want them to see the, actually I do want them to see done. That was a bad example. What would be a good filter? Maybe I don't want them to see risks actually. I just want to hide the risks. So I can just turn off the risks field. And maybe I'll turn off the skill set because my team all kind of knows what they do. I can now save these changes. And this view has now been saved. And even better, the URL is unique to the view. So I can take that URL and give it to someone in a chat, in an email, in a whatever, and it takes them to exactly this. So this speeds up my team. They don't have to struggle and fight with stuff. They can also then just click and drag and update exactly like I would in Kanban, how things are oriented to update the statuses. I could go a step further and give each team member their own saved filter view. I tend not to do that because that's a lot of work. I just tell them, hey, you can go modify this and make your own. And you can add one-time filters by clicking filter and then just go finding, just yourself. So these are just mine. Another easy use case is stakeholders. You want to show them all of the blocked items. You might just add a filter on status and say, just give me the blocked work items, which I have 2 of apparently. And it looks like we have a side chat going off about different acronyms. We're in an acronym fight, everybody. Awesome. If and when you make these, just remember to give them a good name. View 1 is not a good one. Blocked items, maybe. But this is a great way to help save information. Colin, great question. No. Not in a database, anyway. In a Jira board, you have some more options. But again, this is somewhere between a table and a board. A table and a Jira project. Now, someone asked, what's the difference between a database and a table? A database is its own unique content type. So I'll see the content type database show up as this little icon. If I go to a page, this is a table. So a table just gives me like a visual graphic breakdown on the page. And if I go in and edit this, there's not too much I can do. I have some options, like I can give it a numbered column. I can insert chart or manage connected data. But really it's more, in my mind, for organizing text. It doesn't give me any way to connect it to another table. It doesn't give me any way to automatically pull in stuff from Jira or Confluence. I can't add that status. I can't put controls on it. Where I can do that with my databases. You will notice, though, that a database isn't, you can't add a database directly to a page. You can embed it, though. So if I wanted to show this on this page instead of that table, I could just copy the link, paste it in, and I can embed it this way. And that will display my database within my page. All right, folks, we are about wrapping up. I'm going to double check the questions bucket I've got going. Oh, there's no questions in there. Perfect. And most of us write multiple updates to handle different visibility. So if we can find ways in our systems to build out, different unique saved views for folks, that can be a great way to empower our teams, but also save our sanity in terms of not having to write multiple updates. There is another way you can all support me. I have a number of Udemy courses. This is one of them. It's a complete guide to Confluence. This will teach you everything I wish I had known about Confluence when I started using Confluence all those years ago. It includes information on databases. It includes how to be a space administrator, something project admins frequently get shoehorned into. But a lot of great knowledge that will help you better manage and control your projects if you're using Confluence. So that QR code will take you to a special discount, and I'll drop it. Actually, I need to give you a new special discount. I will drop a new special discount in the chat for you right about now. So this is one way you can support me. You can also share this with other folks. Sarah, thank you so much for coming. And tips and next steps. Go get hands-on. If you have Confluence Cloud, go play with this. You can get a free version and go play with it as well. But getting hands-on experience will help you understand how the tool works. And this will also help inspire you to figure out different ways it can work. Someone mentioned, hey, I haven't found a use for it yet. Jump on into Discord. We'll keep the chat going on databases and different ways it can be used. Abite, you're very welcome. Yvonne, you're welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for coming. Alistair, could you expand on your question? Summary tasks? Stephen, could you tag a Confluence page content for embedding and then pull sections into a database? Kind of. Let me get through my end spiel and I'll pop back into Confluence for just a minute and show you what you can link. Colin, thank you so much. Again, please hit that like and subscribe if you haven't. Other ways to support me, just let folks know about the channel. I'm also available for live training if folks need it in their organization. Again, I'm now a professional content creator, so help me out there. Oh, wow. Now people are chanting GOAT. So, Alistair, what we can do, if I add a link in my database, and my head is gigantic, excuse me. Let me get out of the way. I can link in, where'd you go? Pages in Live Docs. So I can link some information from a Confluence page or live doc. And I'll see if I can dig up a video to give you more information on this to help out. LS, you support me just by showing up. That is amazing. Thank you. All right, folks, I'm going to pop back to this slide, which for some reason is blank. So maybe I'll just pop back to my giant talking head. There we go. I do want to thank you all for joining me. We spent an hour talking about databases in Confluence, which is insane, but I'm glad you all came to learn. Again, please keep engaging. Please keep working on how these tools operate. That'll help you out. Join us again in Discord for continued chat. I will be on the lookout for more sessions, and if there are particular sessions you want me to run or particular videos you want me to make, please let me know. I'm always looking for new ideas. I will keep making up ideas. But if there's something specific that you are struggling with or need help with, I'm happy to help out. I'll keep the chat open for a little bit. There's still about 50 folks in here. Again, if you haven't liked, please hit like. We're up to 31, which is amazing. Thank you all so much. But otherwise, if you've got to get out of here, have a great Thursday. I have a training session tomorrow morning on the ACA 910, Jira Service Management, and ITSM. So that's the next thing I'll be doing. And some more sessions next week. I am working on a large kind of secret project though, so I may not have a Tuesday session next week. But thank you all so much again. I'll double check the questions, and I don't think there's anything else. Kari was looking for basic understanding of what databases are good for and what practical uses. I will drop an answer to this question in Discord, Kari. So if folks want to see that answer, join me over in Discord, and I'll make sure I can answer that for everyone. And I will make a note to actually do that. All right, folks. Thank you all so much again. The chat will be open for a few minutes, but have a great day. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you soon.